Commence primary ignition.
This is the way.
What is up, all of you Ugnaughts and Jawas out there, and welcome back to a new episode of Mando Talk, your home for companion podcast episodes, breakdowns, spoiler discussions for The Mandalorian Season 3, and on this episode, we have Chapter 22 titled Guns for Hire, and we've got returning creatives, Bryce Dallas Howard, Jon Favreau, and we've got a returning co-host to the show, DJ Foster is back. DJ, what's up? By the way, I'm Caleb Keller.
Hi, Caleb.
Hey, man.
I hope this is a good show,
It's
because
going to be great.
before I jumped on tonight, I was sitting on my couch watching the classic 2010s movie Easy A with my wife. So if this sucks, just know I gave up Easy A to be on this show tonight. No, I'm just kidding. Easy A is a good movie, though. I like that movie.
Anyway, interesting intro there, man. Interesting. I didn't know where that was going, but I like it. This is definitely going to be better than Easy A.
It probably, and it already is, honestly.
All right, there we go.
I mean, let's just be real here. Like, Mandalorian, Emma Stone.
Sure.
Probably going to go with Mandalorian. I'm just going to be real honest. I'm not wearing an Emma Stone shirt. I'm wearing a Mandalorian shirt. I mean, it's what it is.
There you go.
That's for the pod people. I'm wearing a the pod exclusives, just a Mandalorian shirt. It says "This is the way." It's from season 1.
This is
That's
the way. This is the way. All right. Well, let's get into our breakdown, shall we? Admittedly, if you're online, if you're on the online community, you have seen this one is split. Split across the board. There's hot debates. There's passionate opinions. It's crazy. It's crazy, if I'm being completely honest. But we're here to break down the craziness, and we're here to break down the goofiness and the fun and just weird episode that this was. And I can't wait to do it. And if you want more of these, as always, make sure you hit that subscribe button. We got new podcast episodes coming out every Friday. We've only got 2 more for this season, which is absolutely wild. But I can't wait to finish this out with you guys, and I can't wait to discuss this one. So let's get into it. Chapter 22, Guns for Hire, directed by Bryce Dallas Howard. That is by far, I'll just go ahead and say, our favorite director in the Mandoverse. At least in my opinion. I may be putting words in your mouth, DJ.
Not at all.
She's phenomenal. She does great with any script that she's given, and then this one was written as well solely by Jon Favreau. So not much to dive in with those two other than we love Bryce Dallas Howard. She's a phenomenal director, especially when it comes to this Mandoverse. I can't wait to continue to see her do more, and we've said it on this show over and over again. She needs a movie, folks. She's just so good. She gets Star Wars.
She needs a trilogy, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Give her a whole run of Star Wars movies.
I'm with you. I'm definitely with you on that. Now, I think she did a phenomenal job directing this episode. I do personally have issues with the writing of this episode, so that falls on Favreau's shoulders, but I still do think that Bryce Dallas Howard has done her role all 3 times that she's directed. Is it 3 or is it 4 now?
No,
it's 4.
It's 4 if you count Book of Boba Fett.
Right. Okay, yeah. So 4 times now. I think she's 4 out of 4. She's got a perfect batting average, if you will, so far. Anyway, DJ, what are your thoughts on the direction and the writing, and then we'll get into the specific plot details.
Yeah, I didn't really have anything that just made mental notes about the directing of anything. Like, I think that when you open up an episode with everybody in a rubber alien mask,
right?
You're asking a lot of your performers and your director. So, she jumped in really well with that. Really loved how I've seen a couple people on Twitter saying that connects back to season 1, that this Mon Cala is the nobleman's son that Grief Karga potentially letting Mando go find. So I thought that was nice, a good touch. And that's just in the writing, I guess, more so. But the directing of this, I'm starting to feel a little like Pedro Pascal's vocal performance is lackluster.
Ooh,
Like,
okay.
and I've been very harsh and critical of him as the Mandalorian openly on the show, yet I've not been canceled for it for somehow. But
I've canceled you.
oh yeah, you have. Yeah, I'm not even actually here. But I feel like especially when they're in that weird train tube to go into the city in this episode, I had a really hard time like saying, okay, that's not just some other voice. And it might be because Bo-Katan's not wearing a helmet, but there's some things I feel like that's like the weakest thing for me.
Yeah.
That's really it. I think it's because I know he's not in the suit, and I want Pedro to, I don't want to use this harshly, but I'm going to say it, fully commit. Like,
sure.
And I know that there's been scheduling things, like The Last of Us was going on filming while this was filming. So like it was a little different this season. I just want to see more of Pedro, I think. And just
like
really
helmet off.
Just if I know he's there, like I'm at a point now
where
I can tell the difference between Brendan Wayne and Lateef Crowder.
Oh yeah. I feel like that difference has kind of been there since day one, honestly.
Well, it has, but it took us, for me at least, it took me watching Disney Gallery to like really see the physicality of the two performers.
Sure, yeah.
And then when Pedro's in the suit, which has been, like maybe 10 times max, it's kind of one of those, okay, I know what he looks like when he's wearing it. I know what everybody else looks like when they're wearing it. I just kind of want to just see Pedro in it.
Okay, sure.
And that maybe that's a critique of the whole series. I realize that.
Yeah.
But back to my original point, I feel like Pedro needs to just be more present.
Okay.
And that's my one little thing is like, I don't even know that's a director's issue. It doesn't, maybe it is because I feel like the voice is disconnected from the physical performance in this episode specifically. So, I mean, maybe that's something that, I abbreviate Bryce Dallas Howard to BDH all the time. So if that happens on this episode, there you go. But, I think BDH needs to maybe take a mental note or something. I'm not one to critique a director,
Sure.
But that's what
definitely.
that's what I would do if I was in her position.
Yeah, that's interesting. See, I hadn't even considered something like that. I've always just considered, we've got those two other guys that are trained to give a physical performance. Pedro doesn't have that background. So I'm okay with Pedro not being in the suit unless the helmet's off personally. Because if we're gonna get great Din Djarin action, then I want the great body performer in the suit attempting that action. Because I mean Pedro can do it for sure, but I don't think he can do it to that level. And that's why they've got all these different individuals kind of rotating in and out and doing some different things. But that's definitely a conversation that I feel like could definitely go on and on, because that's an interesting one. For me, I'll say it. We've got different opinions on that. Pedro Pascal is always going to be Mando and Din Djarin to me. I just love the guy.
Yeah. I
love his personality. I love what he does as far as interacting with the community and just really everything. I've loved his voice performance, but I can definitely see, I will say, dialogue, I don't know if Din Djarin's been given a ton that is just so impactful and extremely moving this season compared to the other seasons. So I could definitely see some critiques by that, but I will say that's the first I've heard of it. So interesting thoughts there. I like it. I like hearing those thoughts.
I'm probably digging just a little deep.
Nah, hey, that's what we do here.
It's true. It's part of the breakdown. It's part of the process.
Absolutely. Well, let's get into the scene-by-scene digesting, if you will, of this episode, Guns for Hire. The first point that occurs in this episode, we begin with a ship piloted by a group of Corran, led by Captain Shuggoth, I love that name, if I even said that correctly, that have found a way to bypass the trade routes of Trask. That's the location that we traveled to in Season 2, where we met Bo-Katan for the first time, when suddenly their sensors pick up an Imperial cruiser. This cruiser used to be Moff Gideon's, but it is now being controlled by Axe Woves. Casca Reeves, and other Mandalorians formerly led by Bo-Katan Kryze. The Mandalorians were hired by a Mon Calamari viceroy to find her son. The Mandalorians take the Calamari son, who is in love with this Captain Shuggoth. And my question here, and DJ, you've already kind of alluded to it, and I think we're kind of onto it here. I do think this is the same royal calamari that Greef Karga offered as a bounty to Din Djarin in Season 1, and it sounds like you're in agreement with that, correct?
I am, and I want to give some quick credit to who I saw it first from, our old friend Rural Farm Boy, RFB as we like to call him.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I retweeted that tweet where he mentioned it. Right now, thanks to Elon Musk's new way of doing Twitter, I can tell that this on the analytics, this particular tweet has 80,000 views from RFB.
Wow.
So it picked up steam quick. I mean, he tweeted that just a few hours ago.
I mean, it's a great point. It's an absolutely great point, and I do think that it's 1,000% on the money. So definitely beneficial as far as including in our breakdown. Kind of full circle moment, I guess.
I agree.
Really cool stuff. Casca Reeves declares Mandalorians are honorable, but all it takes is a few credits, showing a little
bounty hunter.
Yeah, showing.
Yeah.
I didn't expect to see some dialogue from that, but I guess it makes sense. Casca Reeves was pretty aggressive in Season 2, for sure. And anyway, the Mandalorians declare that they have a contract waiting for them on Plazir 15, and that ends the opening scene where we get these species that we've come to see and know and love from other Star Wars canon material. Just really cool. At least for me, I really dug the opening scene. I loved seeing this group of Mandalorians being back in the fold, and I loved seeing these species being utilized in a cool way. What did you think of these opening moments?
It was good. For my first thought was, okay, cool, good to see Axe Woves. Because the Bespin Bulletin thing that was out forever ago, kind of leaking that he was going to be in it, which it was a leak, bona fide leak. But it was cool to see him in like the captain's chair here. My biggest thing actually was seeing Sasha Banks back as Casca Reeves, because she flat out said, I'm not coming back. And I was like, well, that's kind of a bummer. So whether she didn't at the time believe she was going to come back,
sure,
or she just flat out lied.
I think she was using her WWE background there and playing a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. I think so. So I was like, you liar. Like, so it was cool to see her and Axe Woves, and it's kind of makes me wonder a little bit about the backstory separation them from Bo-Katan. So
yeah, I know.
Yeah. It was cool though. I love seeing her there.
Yeah, well, very, very Mando vibing opening scene there for sure. Yeah. Well, we do, after the title rolls and we get that intro, we get to see our main trio together, Bo-Katan, Din Djarin, and Grogu, all three. So I was curious if they were going to have two separate missions after last week's episode, but I loved the creative decision to have them continue to be together because I just love hanging out with these three. All three of them arrive on Plazir 15 looking for the Mandalorians that are in fact led by Axe. They plan to land their ship away from the Mandalorian fleet's perimeter since they feel it would be better to walk in on foot when suddenly the gauntlet is forced to land in a slip near the domed city. The trio is greeted by two blacked-out Imperial droids on the landing platform. The trio then hop on a Hyperloop pod in hopes to travel to the bay closest to the Mandalorian fleet, but Din Djarin and Bo-Katan must scan their chain code in order to use the pod, and this then alerts their presence, and they are requested to visit the leadership of the planetary democracy. Then the pod takes off to the bubble, to the dome, to the city. Now, I will say, I have to admit, this is when I started to get that gut feeling in me when I saw that they're going to the Mandalorians. I'm like, okay, here we go. We're getting some great Mandalorian lore, culture, battles, whatever, you name it. We're going to dive into that deeply. And then suddenly the ship loses control and they take a left turn. I'm like, oh boy, this is going to be a side mission episode, isn't it? Which is okay. That's part of the Mandalorian's DNA. I don't necessarily have a problem with that piece in the slightest, but I was a little bummed that we paused on following the Mandalorian covert there. DJ, what were you thinking when we see Din Djarin and Bo-Katan and Grogu take a left turn here?
On my first watch, I didn't think much about it, to be honest. I was just like, okay, there they are. It's a left turn. I just didn't think much about it. I mean, I guess for me, when I'm watching a new show or a new episode or a new movie that I'm not seeing, I'm just kind of like in it, and I don't think much about it until it's over. And then this is where like a debate with you and I really got sparked because, I wasn't like upset with your perspective on the episode. I don't guess you were upset with my perspective.
Absolutely not.
It was just one of those, like, we were legitimately debating over
we were
this idea. And I think at one point I even said this on Twitter because I've seen it from you. I've seen it from a lot of people. A lot of people are just like, what the heck did we just watch? Because it did become a side quest episode. But I started, like, at first, I was like, oh, whatever. Like, we got battle droids. We got Lizzo and Jack Black. Like, it didn't. And the Imperial droids that we just talked about, I was like, they look cool. I wasn't really thinking much about it.
Yeah.
Initially. Then on my second watch, I was like, okay, like as soon as that moment happened where they get locked in that tractor beam and Bo's like, well, it looks like we're going for a ride. I was like, okay, I kind of see like why everybody's a little upset. Like I get it. And I feel bad for everybody for like not looking at it like the way I do in a sense where it's like just turn off the blinders or turn on the blinders probably and just don't be critical. Like I'm never critical on my first time watching anything. So like unless it's just like horrible, like, and there's a very few times I've ever like this sucks and I'm turning it off. But I just didn't think much about it. I just was ready to see what was going to happen. And I don't know. Without saying too much else about the coming scenes, I don't know what else. I was okay with it at first.
I will say as well, and maybe I didn't make it clear when I was talking about them taking the whole left turn and suddenly they've lost control on the ship. I wasn't put off at this moment. I think it was later, 20 minutes down the road from here when we get there is when I realized, okay, we are full on side quest, really the majority of this thing. That's when the critical lens, I guess, started coming on. Because, and again, and I've already said, these side missions are the DNA of this Mandalorian show. Think back to season 1 and really half of season 2. Literally, it was side quest after side quest after side quest. But I just think that the show, The Mandalorian, has grown since then to where at this point in the season, I guess I was just expecting more. But I will say, and we're already kind of hitting our general thoughts here, which is totally fine. We may have skipped over that anyway.
Yeah.
On a second watch, I was able to no longer be critical of it and just have a ton of fun. I mean, you alluded to it. There's so much in here that's goofy and wild and fun to just enjoy. It really did play and feel like a Clone Wars top tier episode. I mean, that's what it essentially was.
I mean, just from the dinner party scene on, just nearly to the end, it was like, this is like Attack of the Clones. Like to me, it was like, this is like the Coruscant stuff. So, 2002 me was like, this is really fun. Like I was enjoying what I was seeing because it was like it was plucked out of the prequels, kind of like what you just said about being plucked out of Clone Wars. It was very much a Clone Wars kind of episode. And just because I went and looked, I was like, okay, how many like side quest type episodes have there been? Like all of them, except for this season.
Almost, yeah.
If you look at season 3, and I'm just kind of looking at the list on my phone here on Disney Plus, it's very linear this season up till now, up till this episode. So I think a lot of people who were just like used to this format of it, just okay, Mandalore, got it. Bo-Katan, got it. And checking off the list as we go down it, I think people were just used to it. And now it's kind of like, oh, we're back to the old Mandalorian kind of style. Like you said a second ago, that's how everything's been up to this point. And I even looked, as like, what, well, the last 2 seasons, what was episode 6 like? And in that first season, it was the jailbreak episode. And that's a side quest. And then I'm looking at season 2, not really a side quest because it connected to the finale really well.
Right.
Because that's when Grogu gets abducted. That really set the precedent for where the rest of the story was going
Yeah.
in that season. And so this one, it does have that moment at the end, but it's still so side questy throughout the whole thing that
For
it's
sure.
like, what are we doing? It's a little bit like, what are we doing?
Yeah, a little bit.
For me. I don't know about for everybody else.
No.
It's like, this sucks. But
And
it's
we'll
like, you know,
we'll definitely carry on with our scene by scene breakdown with our next point here, but I do want to say you had mentioned Attack of the Clones.
mm-hmm.
Attack of the Clones is my least favorite film in the franchise. That's not to say I don't like it. That's not to say there's stuff in it that I don't absolutely love. This episode's my least favorite Mandalorian episode we've gotten so far, and I still feel that way. This is the 22nd out of the 22 that we've gotten for me.
Yeah.
But I'm using that phrasing least favorite and not saying worst for a reason. There is still stuff in this that I absolutely love.
Sure.
Had so much fun with it. It's just, I guess, to kind of steal what you were saying there, and I know you're not saying this, but to still connecting to Attack of the Clones, it's my Attack of the Clones of the Mandalorian so far.
I see what you're saying.
All right, we're there. We're good. We're straight.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we had kind of glanced over our initial thoughts anyway, but it kind of just flowed out there as we were talking about them, taking that whole left turn. And now let's dive into this mission that we go on. Suddenly the pod stops, and the trio walk into a room where a party is occurring, hosted by Jack Black, a.k.a. his Star Wars character is Captain Bombardier or something like that, and
Bombardier?
Lizzo.
Is it Bombardier?
It may be that. And then Lizzo is the Duchess. These two, I'm not a massive Jack Black or Lizzo fan personally, but it is cool. I'm okay with these cameos. Did I absolutely, freak out when I saw them? No. But it's cool to get these well-known individuals in the Star Wars universe. Jack Black's character has been through the New Republic amnesty program, as he was once a facilities planning officer for the Empire, but because of the program, he was able to rebuild Plaisir 15. Lizzo's character, the wife of Jack Black's character, gives some detail on the history of Plaisir 15, and Grogu has one of his cute little moments here. He leaps into her arms to be held and to be fed. The charter prohibits them from hiring military personnel due to Jack Black's imperial past, so they've hired the group of Mandalorians led by Axe as protection. Bo-Katan requests to see the group of Mandos, but Jack Black has a request first before allowing Bo, Din, and Grogu to see them to eliminate their coordinated droid malfunction. If Bo and Din complete this mission for them, Plaisir 15 would vow to recognize Mandalore as a sovereign system and petition the New Republic to recognize it as such. Din Djarin, I love this line though, he was down for the mission at the words battle droids. Love that. He clearly still can't stand droids, and I love that we're continuing to get that through line here. Here was our setup for this quest, and again, very season 1-y, where Din Djarin, and in this case, Bo-Katan as well, they need something, but in order for them to get that something that they need, they got to do something for someone else first. So, very familiar territory here, but DJ, what did you think when you saw Jack Black? Did you freak out? Did you freak out when you saw Lizzo? Where were your thoughts at as we got these moments?
It was funny. I was sitting on the couch and actually I'm holding my daughter because she's in that stage where she likes to climb on me or on things. So she literally climbed on me. So I'm holding her, and they walk through the door and I hear welcome, and I was like, that voice. And then the camera, I went Jack Black. I just started laughing. He's the last person I expected to see in Star Wars. But I love Jack Black. I follow him on TikTok. I'm excited about him being Bowser. I love Nacho Libre. I don't like him in the King Kong remake. It just was a bad cast. But my favorite Jack Black movie is a movie called Bernie, where he plays a mortician. This is based on a true story. He plays a mortician who actually ends up murdering somebody in his town. And it's got Matthew McConaughey in it, and I can't remember the lady's name, the actress now. But it's a silly, funny but really cool movie, and it's one of his best movies, plain and simple. So I just watched that movie like last week, so
Nice.
it's really cool that I was like, okay, so this character he's playing, Bombardier, really reminds me a lot of how he portrayed Bernie in that movie. So I was like, this is very like in his wheelhouse, the way he is playing this character right now. So I was like expecting something to turn sideways at one point with this guy, but it didn't, as we know. So I was really stoked about Jack Black.
Yeah.
It took me about another 10 seconds to realize that was Lizzo.
I see. Yeah.
I kind of forget that I don't mean this to sound bad, I just kind of forget about her because I don't listen to her music.
Sure, that's understandable.
Don't really care about pop music at all.
Mm-hmm.
So like, it's just not something that I'm thinking about. So I was like,
yeah.
oh, wait a minute, that's Lizzo.
Mm-hmm.
And then I couldn't really like it. And this is like, I think a problem, not a problem. It's something that George Lucas has avoided, casting known actors in roles like that. Like, I didn't really know Bill Burr. Like, I know he's acted, I know he's a comedian, but I was like, I can buy Bill Burr in Star Wars because he's not Lizzo or Jack Black.
Right.
Having said that, I bought Christopher Lloyd, no problem. He just made sense, I guess. But it is a little difficult to buy Jack Black and Lizzo. But I did find, okay, so I don't follow, like I said, I don't follow Lizzo. I don't really think about her at all. But I saw a screenshot of one of her tweets earlier today. Maybe you've seen it, Caleb. I don't know. But I want to read this tweet in case nobody's seen it, or if you're listening, you hadn't seen it. But she said, as a kid, my dad showed me Star Wars like a rite of passage. When I got the role of the Duchess, I cried all day. And then she said, Dad, I wish you were here to see this. My dad introduced me to Star Wars. Mm-hmm. So for me, it's a kind of a strange connection in a way that I now have to Lizzo. Because like, and a lot of Star Wars fans are this way. Our parents introduced us to Star Wars. So it's cool to see somebody say, look, I'm here not because I'm who I am. I'm here because I love Star Wars.
Yeah, and that is cool.
As soon as I saw that tweet, I was like, okay, Lizzo, you're welcome to Star Wars now. Like I didn't bother me at all. Yeah. And I know Jack Black likes Star Wars, so I was cool with him initially. For sure. So now that I see this tweet from her, I'm like, your dad showed it to you. We can be pals. Like, I'm cool with that. Like, I love, and I know that's such a weird thing to say. Like, I'm not going to be friends with you unless you know Star Wars. And that's not really what I'm saying. I just need like someone to say, hey, I'm not here because of my recognition.
Sure.
I'm here because I want to be here.
Yeah, well, it's always nice to see the Star Wars performers express their love and passion for the franchise. It always makes us as fans connect with them more. So yeah, I did see that tweet. It is definitely pretty cool. I love that for her. I still can't watch the scene and not view her as Lizzo,
it feels like Rings of Power. I mean, it feels like Amazon Prime's Lord of the Rings series, Rings of Power, the dwarf king and queen. That's what they look like.
That's a good point. They give me those vibes for sure.
And I can't take credit for pointing that out. I saw it somewhere on a Facebook thread or something. I mean, I saw it. Oh, it was one of those spoilers with no context images. And I was like, okay. It got me. It was funny, but it was like that and Bowser. And like a picture of Matthew Wood. It was just funny. Like it was funny.
Right. Yeah. Well, you had mentioned Christopher Lloyd. That is the next direction that we go in this episode. We get to see Christopher Lloyd's long rumored and reported character. It's not some crazy Jedi or some old Sith Lord.
Yeah.
No, it's just Commissioner Hellgate, who is in control of all the droids. He's appearing to give a rundown of the droid malfunctions that have been caught on camera. Bo asks why they don't just shut off the droids, but the citizens voted against it since they can't live without the droids, since they work for them, essentially. For a list of droids they need to decommission, the trio have to visit the lower levels and speak with Ugnaughts. Now, I will say, when I heard Ugnaughts and I got a sense that we were going to see some, your boy started freaking out. So I was very happy with these moments.
Yeah.
It is in these moments as well where Din Djarin reminds everyone of his disdain for droids in the elevator traveling to the Ugnaughts. I know you've already kind of alluded to your thoughts on Christopher Lloyd's character. I will say I definitely bought this character, Commissioner Hellgate, definitely more than the other two that we've previously discussed. I love Commissioner Hellgate as far as the plot movement that this guy delivered for us in this episode. How did you feel about Christopher Lloyd's portrayal of this commissioner?
This scene didn't matter to me at first.
Okay.
I liked his later scene more.
For sure. I'm with you.
That's when I bought him. At this point, I was just like, yes, put Doc Brown in a seat with a giant red button. Like that's Christopher Lloyd. And I was cool with that.
Yeah.
So I loved that. For me, I was fixated more on these Ugnaughts, man.
Absolutely.
And
let's talk about the Ugnaughts.
And
let's do it.
Here's my favorite thing about this. Okay. Ugnaughts, we know where they came from. Their first appearance was in Empire Strikes Back. They were just these little pig looking creatures throwing droid parts around in some trash room. Never thought twice about it. Okay. Never even thought twice about it when we had Queel in season 1. Then Din Djarin drops this incredible line where he's speaking to them, which I know we're about to get to.
Yeah.
And jumps into this whole, I've heard of the way Ugnaughts work on, droids. And I was like, holy cow. In one little line of dialogue, Jon Favreau has unlocked just random Star Wars lore about Ugnaughts. Like, that's hilarious in like the most respectful way, because I was never did I think, oh, Queel worked with droids and that's why he was able to fix IG-11. I just figured he just knew what he was doing with IG-11. I just never thought about it. Yeah. Now that we've got 18 other Ugnaughts sitting in a room all working on droids, it's like, duh, it was there the whole time. Yeah. So I love this. It's so funny. Caleb, what about you, man?
No, I was freaking out. And as well, another freak out sesh of mine is when, first of all, they go into the room and Bo is just getting completely ignored. But then Din Djarin, he's just like, I had a friend, Queel, and it immediately gets their attention, and he ends by saying, I have spoken. And then you hear the Queel, like you hear the season 1 Queel kind of sound piece that we got and that I fell absolutely in love with in that season. That was when as well, like, okay, I'm losing my mind. And then also something I was hopeful for, I was hoping that somehow, it's Nick Nolte, right?
Yeah.
That's the voice actor for Queel.
Yeah.
I was hoping somehow he was going to be one of them, maybe with just a different accent a little bit, just to but I feel like that probably would have been too on the nose.
A little bit.
But it was great. It was great to see these Ugnaughts. I love the plot utilization that these Ugnaughts have. I love the connections like you alluded to about their droid past. And again, it was another moment where it took you back to season 1, and it felt a little full circle there for a while. So I really appreciated that.
Yeah.
So the Ugnaughts initially act as they are unaware of the malfunctioning droids. The Ugnaughts eventually give the location of the droids Din and Bo are in search of after Din convinced them yet again. The Ugnaughts indicated that the next incident would happen at the loading docks, and while at the loading docks, Bo-Katan says she hasn't seen battle droids since the Clone Wars. And this was an interesting response to me. Din Djarin responds by saying, I have. I don't know if this is me reading into this too much. We know about the flashback of Din Djarin as a boy seeing these battle droids. Is this implying that the droids attacking him and his family when he was a child occurred after the Clone Wars, during the Clone Wars, or before the Clone Wars? Because Bo-Katan saying, I haven't seen battle droids since the Clone Wars, and Din saying, I have, has me a little thrown off. Like, it makes me think it was after the Clone Wars that somehow these droids are attacking Din as a kid and his parents and wherever they're at.
Well, I think you're on the right track. I hadn't considered that, so that makes a lot of sense. I'm trying to remember if there was a random battle droid appearance in Mando season 2 or 1. I don't think there was.
I don't think there was either. Yeah.
So he might just have witnessed, some little bit of aftermath of just events taking place after, Order 66 and things like that. I know that in the original Battlefront 2 main missions, like the story mode of that game, the Empire goes into an area, I think it was actually on the Mustafar map, and you have to kill Poggle the Lesser, or just a random Geonosian, I can't remember. and you're Empire, but you're fighting battle droids, and so maybe they're borrowing a little bit and pulling some of that in, because it's an interesting thought at minimum, But I could see it being afterward. I mean, Christopher Lord later, references his political opinions within Star Wars.
True.
So I mean,
that's true.
It could have some I think the word's levity to the situation.
Yeah.
So
I do think it was probably still during the era of the Clone Wars. That was just me really diving into the dialogue, though, seeing if there's something that might be hiding that they're trying to tell us, and maybe we'll later discover.
Maybe Din Djarin's not as old as Pedro Pascal is, and maybe these battle droid things will connect to like Andor season 2 for some reason.
That would be wild.
Yeah, how ridiculous!
Absolutely wild.
That's ridiculous. I don't expect that to happen, but come on. I mean, it'd be really cool if like Din Djarin's a child and there's Cassie and Ann. I mean, it'd be really kind of neat, but it's not gonna happen.
No, it's not. It's not. Anyway, that'd be great though. It'd be great.
Yeah, it'd be great.
At the loading docks, a fleet of battle droids are loading material and supplies. Bo-Katan questions one of the droids, who says all the droids were just checked out to make sure they are working correctly. Din Djarin begins kicking the droids to make sure nothing phases them and they stick to their program directive. I was laughing like crazy just watching Din Djarin go ham on these droids.
It was
so
perfect.
funny. Suddenly, one of the droids, Din, kicks, retaliates, and punches Din to the ground. This leads to a pretty interesting chase through the streets of the city, and Bo-Katan and Din Djarin eventually catch up to it and take it down. Upon inspecting the droid, Bo-Katan finds a spark pad that leads them to the resistor, which Din says sounds like a droid bar. There's an address on the spark pad, and that allows these two investigators to figure out where to go next. I gotta admit, the spark pad a little too goofy for me. It's kind of like a business card that this battle droid's carrying around. Like, what's going on? What is this?
it is a bit goofy, but it somehow makes sense.
Okay. Explain it to me.
In Star Wars, I kind of imagine it like they all just randomly have their chain codes on their gauntlet at all times.
Yeah.
You're like, what does that gauntlet do? It shows my driver's license, but it also shoots fire. It's a little weird that it is a thing in and of itself. But business card, to me, it's an oversight. I don't really care.
Now, I will say, if that happened in a Clone Wars episode, I'm not thinking twice about it.
No, yeah, absolutely.
At all.
And I think something to that effect has happened in Clone Wars or Rebels. Definitely it had to, because it's just goofy. That's Dave Filoni all over it. It's like Jon Favreau may have been credited, but I think Filoni worked a little bit of his magic in this one.
Probably.
I'll say this, and here's why I actually say that. This episode heavily reminded me of an episode of Clone Wars. And I just Googled it to figure out which episode is it. I don't know what season it's. Here it is. Season 3, episode 5, Corruption. It's when Padme and Duchess Satine go all over Mandalore trying to figure out why these children are being poisoned by tea.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And this episode is so much like that.
Yeah, it is. I see that now.
And I think if it wasn't Bo-Katan, I probably wouldn't have thought of that much. I probably would have just kept thinking about Attack of the Clones. But it's a mystery episode, they're solving a mystery, and I kind of like the sleuthiness of it, and it was very, like I said, reminiscent. So I think that's one way where it's really Clone Warsy. It's nearly plot point for plot point similar here, because it's what's causing the droids to be this way?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, something's in the oil they're consuming at this one random bar.
Yeah. Cut
to Clone Wars. What's wrong with the tea? Oh, it's got some kind of drug in it that's killing children. Well, it's connected to this one warehouse or whatever. It's just it's so similar. It's hard not to notice as a fan.
Right.
So I picked up on that a little bit. The business card though, don't really care about the business card. It's whatever to me.
It is what it is. It is what it is.
It is what it is. Yeah.
Well, they do end up getting to the bar. They question the droid that's at the bar. Plazir is been set up as a place that welcomes all droids, even those dating back to the Separatists, but if the New Republic gets word of these malfunctions, they are likely going to get shut down. So this bartender droid that Bo and Din talk to at this location, at the droid bar titled The Resistor, is very much all in on trying to help. So at that point then, Bo and Din begin questioning the droid bartender, who reveals the droids at its bar are served nepenthe, which is a viscous lubricant that protects against mechanical wear while delivering program-refreshing subparticles. That is extremely fancy there. It seems the droids that are malfunctioning are all received the same batch of nepenthe. So the question at this moment is, what was in this bad batch? See what I did there, bad batch? What did you think? What did you think of this discovery, this investigation, all these things going on with the questioning that Bo and Din are delivering here to this droid?
That little raspy giggle got
Ooh,
me.
can we talk about too that giggle was weird. I apologize. Can we talk about too Din Djarin getting super aggressive on this droid for no reason?
I love it. Honestly, I like it.
I love
because
that too.
He's only ever trusted 2 droids, and all the droids that he suddenly like has a problem with are the ones that like gave him PTSD to begin with. Like,
Yeah.
I love that. I'm just like, dude, knock him out. I don't care. Like, every time he talks to a droid, every time he's like getting handsy with a droid, I'm like, do it, man. Like, work out that anger, like, I'm cool with it. I'm of the opinion, now don't beat somebody up, but I'm of the opinion that if you got some angst, you got to figure a way to like get it out. And for me, that was learning to play drums. Okay. So nice. I had some anger. I go wail on the drums for a little bit. Did it every time.
Wails on droids.
And I'm like, dude, bang the drum, hit the droid. I don't care. Do what you got to do, man. Like, it's just a droid. I mean,
hey now.
I mean, it just depends on the droid. Like,
okay.
Battle droid, go ham. Service droid, chill a little bit. But like, he's just questioning this one. He's like, what's the deal? I will take your arm off. Like, little light threatening never hurt anybody in Star Wars, right?
Right. Yeah, it never hurts.
Oh man,
this is where it gets fun. Gets wild, and the goofiness just cranks up exponentially at this point.
Great.
I mean, we're talking about nepenthe. We're talking about this stuff that's in it. I mean, this is not what I'm expecting in the 6th episode of season 3 of The Mandalorian.
It's so much. Like, it's so much to take in.
Oh, it's great. It's so great though. Honestly, now that I'm thinking back to it, like, it's so funny.
It is. It makes no sense. Like, it really doesn't. Even like when they start to like analyze the nanobots and everything at this lab. Yeah, man, we're looking at the Jedi Temple getting bombed in Clone Wars. It's just so much weird, and that's why I was like okay with it. Because it was just like Clone Wars. I was like, this is great. I love it. Maybe it's a touch of what we're gonna get in Ahsoka.
I hope not.
None of the weird stuff.
I'll take a little weird. I'll take a side of weird, but not a full course meal.
I love a full course of weird in Star Wars. It makes my day.
Man. Hey, that's fair. Hey, you're not alone. You're not alone with that, for sure.
No, I'm not.
Well, you had alluded to it. Bo and Din go to the lab holding the recent rogue droid to see what particles are present in the nepenthe it took. It's discovered that it does have reprogramming subparticles in it. Suddenly, a probe droid in the room goes rogue, and Din Djarin takes it out with the darksaber. Upon further review, nano droids are inside the nepenthe. A chain code is also detected and reveals they were manufactured by the Techno Union. They've been in cold storage for ages. It did not arrive through droid acquisitions. They were requisitioned by the security office, which is illegal. The droids were ordered by an individual, which is the head of security, which is our boy Commissioner Hellgate, aka Christopher Lloyd's character. So we get this big reveal. Again, I'm sitting here, they're dissecting this nepenthe, and we're talking chain codes, we're talking Techno Union. I'm like, what is going on?
I love it. Okay, as ridiculous as the dialogue is here, okay? It's all Clone Wars. It's like
it is fun. It's fun.
And like, I want to know, did people jump over and just decide to watch Attack of the Clones or random episodes of Clone Wars right after? Because that's all I thought about. Best thing in this whole scene, the best weird thing in the whole scene is we hadn't even touched the fact that they pulled this droid out like it's a corpse in a morgue. Like, there's a droid morgue. Like, it's Sign me up.
Droids are getting treated like just normal citizens at this point in the galaxy.
It's so funny because it's like nobody in their right mind has ever wanted to treat a robot as a person,
unless it's R2D2 or BB-8 or C-3PO.
Fair, but like we like them because they're kind of more like a dog.
Sure,
they're just they're like Lassie. Like they come and say, "Hey, so and so stuck in a well," and then we don't see them again for a little. Like I'm okay with that kind of a droid thing, but when you pull a battle droid out of a morgue gurney, I kind of lose it. I'm just like, this is stupid, but I freaking love it. Like it's so dumb, but it's so perfect. It's like I feel like I need to quote it like I'm Benoit Blanc in Glass Onion. It's so dumb. It's so dumb. It's just so good though. Oh, it's so actually my side hurts from laughing.
I mean, my cheeks hurt honestly from smiling and laughing.
So funny.
Talking about this goofiness.
It's so dumb, but I love it. It's oh man, like, and this is not what I want every episode of Mandalorian to be like.
No.
Do I need some random Christopher Lloyd type to come in and start talking about nano droids and Count Dooku and no, I don't. But like, do I freaking love it? Then sign me up. And if that's an IV, hook it in, man. Let's go. Like that's good stuff. It's so funny.
Oh man. As long as that IV that you're taking in doesn't contain Nepenthe, we'll be all right.
No, we should be fine. Yeah.
Well, once Din and Bo accuse Commissioner Hellgate, he threatens to press a button that will make all the droids return to their original battle droid programming. Hellgate dates himself by revealing he's never given up to the corrupt Republic or the Empire, and he won't give up to Din and Bo. Bo declares that Hellgate is a separatist, and Hellgate responds by saying that's a pejorative term. Hellgate supports democracy and declares Count Dooku was a visionary that was cut short in his prime by the Jedi Enforcer, and then, before he can finish that line, Bo-Katan stuns him and arrests him. I'd like to think that he was gonna give a Jedi mention there and maybe say Anakin Skywalker. That would have been pretty cool. That'd been pretty cool. Well, we get this kind of turn here. I don't know if you were earlier in the episode expecting Hellgate to be the guy behind all of it. I did kind of start getting a sense that, okay, we're coming back to him at some point, so I do think he's got something to do with this. What did you think of this dialogue? What did you think of the reveal?
I thought Jack Black would be the ultimate bad guy in this episode, honestly.
Yeah.
I really did. Because I love it when Jack Black plays an evil type, like he kind of sinister-y. Like he always like on every TikTok video he does, he's like always acting like he knows something you don't. And I thought that I was getting those vibes from him originally, but it makes way more sense for Hellgate to be the guy. I mean, it makes so much more sense, and that's fine. What I love about this though, it's like, and now I'm thinking about it, he's like the last surviving separatist, you know, and he's held on to that political belief for all this time. And that's a long, I mean, and he would have been a young person, you know, during the Clone Wars. Like he would not have been old, you know, he's really held on to that political ideology for like, I mean, at this point, it's got to be close to 35, almost 40 years.
Yeah, it's been a minute.
I mean, it's impressive. Like think about political landscape 40 years ago. It's not going to be the same as today, you know, and it's just incredible. And it kind of reminded me of like, you'll hear like, I hate to be that person, but you'll hear like boomers and they'll be like, well, back in my day, you could buy a house for $15,000. And like, and now it's like, yeah, well, Uncle Buck over here, it's like 400 to 500 to $1 million for some folks. So why don't you chill out real quick? You know, like, and it's so similar to me. Like Christopher Lloyd's playing that kind of character here, but it's just in like the political world, and it's kind of funny. Like it's weird. It's very Clone Wars-y. But it's also like, of course, the old dude who was alive for all that would be like, Count Dooku was misunderstood. You know, it's just it's kind of funny. It's more joy to this, more joyous weird.
Oh gosh,
it's great. It's great.
I cannot believe.
Yeah. Okay, but let's
talk about this. I cannot believe
though.
We're here, man.
No, and let's talk about this though. We got a Count Dooku reference.
That was cool.
That was the year 2023.
That was very cool.
Like nobody thinks about Count Dooku, and who.
Watch Tales of the Jedi. You'll be thinking about Dooku for a while.
Yes, you will. Or if you read Claudia Gray's Master and Apprentice.
Yeah.
I mean, just throwing it in there because I like to talk about that book. But, it's just incredible that we're holding on to those things. And Jon Favreau, clearly having written this episode, it wants to pull. Yeah. And it's like, well, are we going to get another Sith or Jedi reference from the Clone Wars as we go forward? I mean, I kind of hope we. I mean, at this point, if we've gotten Luke Skywalker, Ahsoka, Dooku mentioned. I mean, Yoda's been mentioned.
I'm calling my shot here.
Okay.
I think we're getting Darth Maul next. When we're talking history of Darksaber, I think we'll get a Darth Maul name drop.
We have to at
That'd
some
be cool.
point. Yeah, we have to at some point.
I'll freak out with that one big time.
Yeah, I mean, and watch them bring in like Ray Park for like a flashback, or
that would be wild.
Maybe they'll throw up like a hologram or something, and it's Ray Park, doing his thing. It'd be great. I mean, they have to mention him at some point.
Yeah,
because the Darksaber's now right back where it needs to be in the forefront.
Yeah, it is. It is definitely in the forefront. Well, before we get to that massive moment, we do have one more scene-by-scene breakdown piece here regarding the droid malfunctioning problem. Commissioner Hellgate is taken to Jack Black and Lizzo, where Grogu is helping Lizzo be extremely successful at some party game by using the Force. It is declared that Hellgate must live on the moon Paraquat in exile. Bo and Din are granted access to visit the Mandalorians and are also given the honor of a key to Plazir. Grogu, and again, this is where it gets super weird and goofy again, but this was actually kind of cute and fun for me. Grogu is granted knighthood by Lizzo. That's a sentence I never thought I would say. So his official title is now Knight of the Ancient Order of Independent Regencies, Breaker of Chains, Grogu. Hilarious.
I've been saying to myself, he's Sir Grogu.
Sir Grogu, yes.
Like every time
from here on out, Sir Grogu.
Sir Grogu, yeah, he's Sir Grogu of Clan Jaren. It's just, again, so dumb, but like this dude has a better pedigree than I do, having with a diploma on the wall.
Yeah,
like you got trained by Luke Skywalker, also a Mandalorian. Also best friends with Jar Jar Binks. You got all this. I threw that one in there for me. But you got all these like little things that have started to stack up on this itty bitty little green dude. And you just kind of can't help but be like, what in the world? Like,
I know.
He's Sir Grogu now. Like, all right, that's what we're doing.
He's soon going to be a full-on Mandalorian. Like, he's going to have all the titles, man.
Yeah.
All the titles.
Wait till he has like the full Beskar, the helmet.
It's gonna be great.
He's got a lightsaber, and it's funny. It's cool. It's also a little bit ridiculous.
Sure.
But
it's fun.
I think
it's
that's
awesome.
why they're just like slowly.
They're slowly making us okay with just
off.
this absolutely weird craziness.
Yeah. They said, give them the weird puppets that are fish but love each other. And then by the time we get to season 15, when he's in full, in an Iron Man suit fighting Count Dooku Resurrected, and no one's going to care. It's going to be awesome.
Oh, man. Can
you imagine? Oh, man. Can you imagine?
I can after this, honestly. I can. Anyway. This episode's been an interesting one to get to break down. It's just so easy to kind of go off on these tangents, but
at least we're like getting to like the coolest part of the whole episode.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. We get to the trio that make their way out to the Mandalorian fleet, where Bo-Katan proclaims she is back to reclaim it. Axe Woves does not want to give it up, as he has grown quite fond of leading it. In response, Bo-Katan challenges Axe to a battle. Axe accepts the challenge, and it begins to go down. The two begin fighting, which leads to an awesome battle. Bo-Katan forces Axe Woves to yield. Axe says she will never be the true leader to their people, as she won't challenge Din Djarin for the dark saber. Now, before we get to this dialogue, I always love just reciting and breaking down the big Mandalorian dialogue, so we'll do that in just a minute. I first want to say I loved this battle. I thought it was shot well. I thought the pacing of it was well. I thought it increased the intensity, obviously of this episode. So I absolutely loved this fight between Bo and Axe. I loved that they made the decision to give Axe some of his moments. Like sometimes, yeah, he was winning that battle, but ultimately we knew Bo-Katan was going to take him down, was going to take Axe down. What did you think of this battle, DJ? And then we'll definitely get to the dialogue passing back and forth between these three characters.
It was great because, and I'll be quick on this one, it was really cool because Axe Woves didn't like get to shine in season 2 with like that gravitas of being able to like go toe to toe with somebody.
Yeah.
All we saw him do were a couple of flashes of stormtroopers and some Quarrens, where Sasha Banks got to really shine.
Yeah.
And I think that was by design in season 2. Like who's your your famous person in the suit, put them in front of the camera a little bit more. And then that obviously led to the team up in the finale. And this was a good moment for that character to kind of just shine and show like what he can do. And of course, yeah, like you said, we knew that he wasn't going to win this fight. And if he did, it's like, well, Bo-Katan, you might as well just leave. Like, what's the point in having him here?
Right.
So it's great that he was there. I'm glad that we got to see, his ability as a fighter. It's always good to see Mandalorians fighting each other because that's what they do. And I was all great with that and loved the way that looked at. And actually I noticed in the credits, the stunt double name, one of the stunt doubles, there was like 2 or 3 for Bo-Katan. But it was a woman named Jessie Graff, who, if that name means anything to you, she is like the American Ninja Warrior champion. And I believe she's also a stunt double for Gal Gadot in one of the Wonder Woman movies. So like she's been around the block. She's in the industry. So it's really cool to see like a little pop culture thing kind of.
Yeah.
That is super sidebar. I know that, but like I loved like, oh, as soon as I saw the name, I was like, who is that? Googled it, found out. Okay. And I remember watching her do the ninja runs and all that stuff. And I was like, wow, she's incredibly talented. So that to me added to the stunt performance here. Really loved it. Really loved it. Seeing somebody who knows what they're doing always helps.
Yeah, it was well done. I love the little battle. So let's get into these very intriguing quotes. Look, I have my criticisms of the writing of this episode, obviously, more so the plot, really. But Favreau knows what he's doing when it comes to Mandalorian lore, writing, and dialogue. Like, this stuff is just, I eat all of this stuff up. It's phenomenal. Bo says Mandalorians are stronger together. Axe responds by saying a misguided zealot possesses the blade. One, I might add, who has not one drop of Mandalorian blood in his veins. That's a deep cut there from Axe, but Bo is quick to stand up for Din Djarin. I loved this. Din Djarin took the creed and chose to walk the way, just as our ancestors did. He is every bit the Mandalorian that they are, certainly as much as any of us. Man, I just love that so much. Anyway, continuing on, Axe says, but according to our ways, the ruler of Mandalore must possess the Darksaber. And this is where Din steps in and says, then she shall have it. This belongs to you. Bo says it's not a gift to be given, no matter how well intended. But then Din, this is a great dialogue moment, and I really did feel like, at least in my opinion, I felt like Pedro was kind of giving his all here. But again, maybe DJ, you have a different opinion, which is fine. But Din says, it's not a gift. While exploring Mandalore, I was captured, and this blade was taken from me. Bo-Katan rescued me and slayed my captor. She defeated the enemy that defeated me. Would this blade then not belong to her? Would it? And this is where it got me, I guess, is when he repeated this with a lot more authority and impactfulness, I guess. He says yet again, would it not belong to her? And that's where we start getting the music swelling. Axe says it would. Din says, I return this blade to its rightful owner. And the episode ends with Bo-Katan igniting the Darksaber as the Mandalorian fleet looks on. I really love this dialogue in this scene. I know, DJ, we were talking off the show, so I'll go ahead and say this. I want to say, number one, I love the fact that Bo-Katan does have the Darksaber. I don't want that opinion to get misconstrued. I'm very excited to see what is to come of this. I'm very excited to see if Bo-Katan's going to continue to keep the Darksaber and tame the Mythosaur. We still got to come back to that eventually. But I have to say, I am, I guess, now struggling with, and I didn't think I was going to. I thought if Bo-Katan got the Darksaber, I was going to be all in on it. I am struggling with, okay, do I really not want Din Djarin to have any, like, does he not need to have the Darksaber or the Mythosaur? That is something that I am mentally struggling with and trying to kind of figure out on my end. I look forward to figuring that out, and I look forward to see what they explore with this Darksaber situation they got going on. But regardless, Bo-Katan's past and everything that led to this means a lot. And seeing her ignite that Darksaber yet again, ready to go into the next adventure, definitely did send chills down my spine. How did you think of this dialogue? What did you think of this reveal? Are you all in on Bo-Katan being the next Mandalore?
Look, a technicality is a technicality, okay? You know, I've watched a lot of UFC over the years, and there's a thing called a TKO, okay? It's a technical knockout. By technicality, someone's been knocked out. Okay. I know that is like the duh. Okay. But that's what happened to Din Djarin. And he never really wanted the Darksaber. That's something we need to remember. Is it cool for us as fans to be like the Mandalorian? He's got, it's got the thing, we love that. And for nobody who's watched Rebels or Clone Wars, you're kind of like, what the heck, like, you put all this effort to get this guy, this Darksaber, and if you still haven't watched these two series after Book of Boba Fett and Mandalorian, like, I can't believe you haven't at least done some research on who the rightful owner of this saber is. So technicality wise, yeah, it's okay that Bo has this lightsaber, because she defeated the guy that took it from Din, which is how the process works. Where that gets skewed is back in Clone Wars. I watched a TikTok video from this guy today called The Docking Bay, and he pointed out that this technicality now actually shows who the rightful owner of the Darksaber really is.
Yep.
Did you see this video too?
I think so. Yeah.
So I think I sent it to you actually. So it's technically Palpatine.
Yeah.
It defeated Maul in Clone Wars. And then there was that comic run called Darth Maul, Son of Dathomir, and I just briefly skimmed the Wikipedia page for it. Doesn't really have anybody saying, I mean, it probably does. I had to read it quickly about how Maul got the Darksaber back, or if he never lost it in the first place. So Palpatine technically defeats him on Mandalore, but who defeats Palpatine later? It's Darth Vader. Therefore, the technical owner should be Anakin Skywalker.
Yep.
And I guess by association, because Luke technically kills Vader, sort of, in Return of the Jedi, it should be Luke. It should be Luke's, maybe.
That opens a can of worms as far as your interpretation of what kills Anakin, I guess. But that's podcast for a different day.
Oh yeah. Totally different thing there. So, like, I love the speculation side of this.
Yeah.
But for all intents and purposes, what we've got going on in Mandalorian, Rebels, and Clone Wars, I'm totally okay with the fact that Bo-Katan has it, because she's the rightful person. And we talked about this off air before we started tonight, but I searched. I don't delete text messages; it's a problem. But I should probably. But I searched the name Bo-Katan in my text messages. That's how nerdy I am. And sure enough, message pops up, Caleb, back on February 27th. So what did I say? Bo-Katan is not going to make it out of season 3, basically, is what I said in our text messages. The way I actually said it was, she's out like a belly button, is actually what I said, which is the dumbest sentence anybody's ever said or written. But I did say it. Here we are. So I think that maybe not at the end of this season will we see the end of Bo-Katan, but I can kind of see how, she might die and everybody rallies around Din Djarin, maybe. Just because we want him to be the Mandalorian.
Right.
And back when Bo-Katan saw the Mythosaur, I was thinking, man, Bo-Katan on the Mythosaur versus the Armorer on some little baby dragons, and they're going to have a nice, really cool fight.
Sure.
I mean, I thought that was going to be something we saw. I actually don't know what to expect now.
Yeah, me either.
Because her getting the Darksaber back changes a lot of things.
Yeah. What I always thought was going to be Din Djarin keeps the Darksaber. He just learns how to actually use it well. And Bo-Katan tames the Mythosaur, and it's like a co-leadership thing. Mm-hmm. We're not heading that direction at all right now. Mm-hmm. At all. Like, it's Bo-Katan or nothing at this point. So as far as making Din Djarin the Mandalore, yet again, like the plot heading that way, it would have to result in Bo-Katan's demise. It would just have to, I think, in these moments, because Din Djarin's not going to suddenly not follow Bo-Katan unless she just does something absolutely insane.
Yeah.
But I'm not seeing it heading that way yet. So it is definitely, for me, it's just going differently than what I expected. I just expected Din Djarin and Grogu to always be at the forefront, and somehow him eventually becoming the next Mandalorian, or the next Mandalore, rather, I should say. But maybe Bo-Katan, maybe it's Bo-Katan, and part of the story is the fact that Din Djarin helps her get to where she was always destined to be. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see, but we only have 2 episodes left. 2 episodes left, which is absolutely, absolutely wild. I can't wait to cover the last 2 episodes.
Yeah,
I really hope we get Moff Gideon. I really hope we go back to Mandalore. I really hope we get some Mythosaur. I hope we get more Darksaber history. We kind of alluded to that with just us wishing that we get a Darth Maul name drop or something like that.
Yeah.
There's a lot, I feel like, with 2 episodes left that I would still like to see, and I don't know if they're going to show all of those things. I don't know. I'm very intrigued to see what we've got. But, DJ, are there any final thoughts that you have on the episode itself?
No, other than I see where people have problems with it, and I tend to forgive those issues a lot with Star Wars because I just love Star Wars. So I don't have any issues with like the things people are saying. I thought this episode was ridiculous and fun.
Yeah.
It was goofy. I mean, flat out goofy.
Yes,
but
it was.
I like weird Star Wars. And so if you like weird Star Wars, this was for you. So, other than that, no, I like you said, I'm really excited to see what comes next.
Yeah.
Darksaber stuff is going to be great. I'm curious about how Axe Woves' loyalty will kind of pan out.
Ooh, yeah.
A little bit. Like he does say it would, there at the end that the saber belongs to her. Mm-hmm. So, it's not as big a deal, I think, for him, because it's like technically it's all good, but it's only a matter of time. And, and I'm curious to where all these other clans went from Rebels to now, and hope that somehow gets talked about. But that's it.
We'll definitely see. Well, let me say this. We had, double-digit Twitter submissions, Discord submissions, but I do have to say, as far as timing goes, we are definitely at our timing limits here regarding other things that we need to get to. So let me do this. I don't want to rush through our listener submissions. I want to take my time and discuss them. So those of you that submitted some things for us to discuss, first of all, I greatly appreciate it. Second of all, what I will plan to do then is I will myself get a recording in of me just talking to you guys, because like I said, I don't want to rush it. And what I'll do is I'll get that podcast recording out Sunday, this coming couple of days, as you're hearing this podcast.
You mean they get exclusive bonus content?
Hey, exclusive bonus content for our Mando Talk listeners. Let's go. We've made it. We've made it. We have made it when we've got to make extra bonus content, baby.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
But yeah, I hope those of you that are listening that send in submissions, I hope you don't mind that. Again, I want to make sure that I don't rush it on you guys and we just read your stuff and move on. So I'll definitely do that separate recording. It'll come out Sunday, first thing for you to listen to and for everyone to listen to. Even if you didn't send in a submission, I'm sure there's going to be stuff. I know there's going to be stuff just by glancing off of some of these tweets and some some of these Discord submissions, there's going to be some stuff that we missed as we were breaking down this episode. So it's definitely something for everyone, regardless if you sent something in or not, to check out. And I will say, if you want to get in on that action for next podcast episode, for next week, send in those tweets, send in those Discord messages at Mando Talk on Twitter, and the Discord link is down in the description. Well, that does then wrap up our breakdown episode. I greatly appreciate everybody listening to this one as we were kind of going off on tangents here, there, and everywhere, as this episode of The Mandalorian was itself. So I feel like it just naturally kind of happened that way. Absolutely goofy, absolutely wild, but I'm happy that we're here. I'm happy that we're talking Season 3 of The Mandalorian. I'm excited that we've got 2 more. And DJ, I'm excited that you were here for this one. And I'm excited to see what we're going to be able to talk about in these next couple of weeks. DJ, thank you for being on. Final thoughts from you.
Looking forward to the next week. Hey, Star Wars Celebration this weekend, y'all.
Hey,
we're going to get some
big stuff.
Get some announcements. By the time this comes out, it'll be celebration time. So I mean, they're starting off big with these movie announcements I've been hearing. Almost said. So I'm expecting some good stuff this weekend. Trailer drops and hoping some good things come about. Good announcements, hopefully solid announcements.
Absolutely.
And I'm really excited about that. However, if you want to hear me go on tangents elsewhere, you can check out my podcast I do with my friends down this way in Texas called Cinematic Theology. We take movies and look at them from a biblical perspective. I know that the most recent episode is on The Shawshank Redemption, and we're looking to record, I think, next week for our next movie. And I'll just go ahead and say what it is. Our next movie is 1999's Tarzan, the animated Tarzan.
That's a fun one.
And so this morning, I actually listened to the whole Tarzan soundtrack, and man, did I have a good morning on the lawnmower listening to the greatness that is Phil Collins. So that was fun. It was a good time. So looking forward to that. So if you guys want to hear more tangents, you can go to that podcast, and that link will not be in the description below, but you can go search it.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Well, thank you again to all of our listeners. Thank you so much for your continued support. Can't wait to talk to you guys in our special episode coming soon regarding talking to you with your submissions, things like that. But until then, and until our next companion podcast episode breaking down the penultimate episode of Season 3 of The Mandalorian, as we always say as we get out of here, see you later, but also, we have spoken.